We are still in eclipse season, and we're coming up to the lunar eclipse on August the 28th in the sign of Pisces. And I want to take a look today at where the market has been since the lunar eclipse and where the market is possibly going as we go into this lunar eclipse. So let's see where the market has been since the solar eclipse on August the 12th. Now, Bitcoin has done extremely well. Starting on the 19th, it went up. It had been having a great run. And I feel that this could be attributed to Venus coming into a conjunction with Bitcoin's midheaven. That was exact on the 20th. So starting on the 19th is when it started. And that could have been when Venus was approaching this midheaven. And we could see it's had a great run so far. A little volatility on the 22nd, but it's been continuing to rise ever since then. In my original video, I did state that this cycle, it was possible that the cycle could have been challenged suddenly due to the North Node eclipse, North Node being next to the moon, the South Node being next to the moon during this eclipse. But because I was looking at two different charts and I wasn't sure which chart was correct, it seems as if that the South Node was not next to the moon during the eclipse, making it so we could have this great run on in Bitcoin, not having any unexpected events causing the markets to fall. Looking at New York Stock Exchange, this is the SPX chart. It's a 30-minute chart. New York Stock Exchange has had more challenges than Bitcoin's chart. On the day of the eclipse, there was a lot of volatility and market was overall moving downwards. On the 13th, it had a strong increase, but then the market has just been continuing to have this downward momentum. Today, as I'm recording this, it's August the 27th. It seems to be starting to have some sort of recovery. A reason that that New York Stock Exchange is having more of a difficult time than Bitcoin or the crypto market is because that Saturn is squaring the ascendant. And it's been doing it since the start of this cycle. And the North Node is coming into a square also with New York Stock Exchange's sun. I believe that started around August the 13th. And that was on the day that there was a sudden increase in the market, but it continued to move downward. So I feel that Saturn squaring the ascendant, the North Node coming into a square with New York Stock Exchange's sun is causing this downward trajectory, volatility. Again, it's the 26th right now, the 27th, and it's starting to try to rise up. So now I'm going to take a look at the eclipse chart to see how the market could potentially move in this second part of the cycle. This is the general chart for this eclipse. Since this past week, I relearned about triplicities, and I feel that this is going to help us make a better analysis and predictions with the markets. It is eclipse season, so things are unpredictable. To keep that in mind, anything that can happen will happen during eclipses due to these outside events. And I know that with Bitcoin, there was a meeting held with Trump and a bunch of crypto people from different companies, Coinbase and all these other things. And that I feel is also a reason why the crypto market had this sudden increase along with Venus. But anyways, back to this lunar eclipse. Now, during this eclipse, sun and the moon are obviously opposite to each other, and they're both Uranus is squaring the sun and the moon. That is sudden, unpredictable price moves. It's a square, so it's a challenge. So this could be challenging the market unpredictably at different times. The North Node is next to the moon, but it's in a different sign. Regardless of that, this could be indicating the cycle to continue to have positive momentum. It could be signaling growth possibly within the market for Bitcoin and New York Stock Exchange. But because it's not in the same sign, that could make a big difference. That could allow Uranus here squaring to the sun and the moon to have unpredictable, unexpected price challenges. So keep that in mind. Even sudden increases, but it's challenging it. So it's a sudden, unexpected market movement, sudden events happening. It's in Gemini. This could be war. It could be war. It could be fighting. Increase of all of those things. Uprising, protests. Now, according to this triplicity chart, this is a nighttime chart because the moon is below the ascendant. This makes Mars, Venus, and the moon extremely important. The moon is opposite to Mercury. It's trining to Mars, which is very positive. Mars is also squaring Saturn, and Venus is opposite to Saturn. These three planets could be indicating more challenges this second part of the cycle. I know New York Stock Exchanges have been having challenges, and it could be signaling further challenges or further volatility for the cycle. One thing to say is that Jupiter is trining Saturn on August the 31st. So this will definitely be influencing this lunar eclipse. This is structured growth, structured expansion of the market, structured prices. So the combination of Saturn, Jupiter, trine, moon, and sun squaring to this Uranus, it could be sudden unexpected gains in growth, sudden unexpected expansion in growth, or it could be also signaling high volatility, markets moving up and down, trying to have growth, but also at the same time growing, but then unexpected losses followed by unexpected increases. The eclipses are unpredictable. It's a full moon. It's in Pisces. The moon is at 4 degrees in Pisces. So Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus are very important to this. Again, that's that structured growth. Venus is value, causing an increase in value. So I do see that it's quite possible that this could be the second half of the cycle could continue to, could be more positive for the New York Stock Exchange, and it could continue positivity for the crypto market. My only concern is this sun and moon squaring to Saturn. This, I feel, would be an outside force, occurring outside event that causes this unexpected events to occur that causes this strong decrease in the market. And that would be why, if the market starts to just be all negative for both markets, that would be why it's Uranus is an outside event occurring. Okay, so looking at Bitcoin. Again, I covered this more in the beginning, but why did the market suddenly have this strong increase, this price growth? And I feel that it was Venus conjunct this midhaven. I undermined this Venus over on the midhaven because Mars and Saturn were both squaring to the sun, and the sun is very important, but the midhaven is just as important. So I should have taken this more into consideration. Now, one of two things could happen. When Bitcoin could continue this growth, continue moving up. I know it's been moving a bit sideways right now, but it could stay continuing at the prices that it's at until September the 10th, when Venus will enter into Scorpio, leaving Libra. Or it's possible that starting in very early September, September the 1st, we could have starting of the prices to start to decline because Saturn will be exactly square to Bitcoin sun. And that is a huge, huge challenge. This could cause markets to decrease quickly, retracing the steps, retracing back down to levels before it started to have this strong increase up into the 80,000. That's just one of two possibilities. Either September 10th, it could start to go down, or starting in the very beginning of September, it could start to decrease the market. For this lunar eclipse, Mars is opposite to the sun, and Jupiter, Saturn is still squaring to the sun. So the moon in Pisces is it's going to be in its second house. That is the ruler of this area of the chart is moon's in Pisces. It's immutable water. It's transformation, transforming prices, trying to Bitcoin's Mars, positive, that's action-oriented growth. Jupiter and Saturn are also part of this triplicity. This is structured growth. So we could continue to see growth during this eclipse, or keep these prices positive. But my concern here is Mars opposite to the sun. It will be exact on August 31st, the same day that Jupiter and Saturn are trine in the general transits charts. So what I have to say about this is the eclipse itself could be positive, but the actual day of when Saturn and Jupiter are in this trine in the general transits charts, that is when we could also start to see this challenged market momentum because of Mars. Mars is action, and it could override the Jupiter Saturn influence. We could have a better pricing from the 28th through the 30th as a result of Jupiter Saturn building up their energy. Jupiter usually has a earlier influence than the exact date, so it could have the best prices, best market movement 28th through the 30th, and then the 31st was also when we could have challenges also appearing in the markets. I do see the 28th, the lunar eclipse, to be positive for Bitcoin. The 31st into the 1st is when we could start to see the market starting to come down, especially with Mars opposite to the ascendant and Jupiter in the square to the ascendant. So it's like it's squeezing the prices down. Something else to also note is that Jupiter will be in a sextile to the midheaven on the 30th. That is also going to influence the markets here on the 28th, increasing the prices or having the market stay in this positive momentum on this eclipse. So I do feel that this eclipse will be positive, continued this positive momentum, maybe even increasing the prices a little bit further. But then in September, maybe the 31st, that could be when we start to see the markets start to decline, especially as we're leading up to the September 4th, where Saturn is squaring to natal sun exactly. If the Saturn squaring natal sun is not a big challenge, that would be because Venus is still in Libra, and it could be just keeping everything afloat, overriding these challenges that are occurring. But I do feel that starting in September, we're going to start to see some challenges with the market. If not, then maybe starting September the 10th, we could start to see challenges in the market when Venus leaves Libra. And as Saturn is squaring to natal sun, the moon will be squaring the sun and Mars will be opposite to the sun. I feel that the September 4th is still going to be a challenge, still going to be challenging the market prices, momentum. On the 5th as well, we have the sun trining to natal sun. Excuse me, the 4th is when Saturn is squaring the ascendant and the sun. The 5th is when sun is trine to natal sun. That could help the prices to not have this strong waterfall of market falling out of the sky. But I do feel that Saturn is going to have a strong influence here, and we could just see negative momentum through the 5th as well. And depending on how Saturn influences the markets, it could either cause negative challenge momentum throughout the rest of this half of the cycle until, I believe, September 10th is the new moon coming up. We could just see challenges from, I would say, September the 1st throughout the rest of the cycle, which ends on September the 9th. Quite a possibility. Again, it's the eclipses. Anything is possible. And because the market's been rising as strong as it has been, the other possibility is if the market's not going down, I feel that the market could have a more challenging time starting next cycle. So to sum that up, the market on the eclipse, I see that as positive through the 30th. And then on the 31st, it could still be positive, but that could be when there's a high amount of volatility. And starting in September the 1st, we could see the market starting to come down, really having the challenges and remaining that way for the rest of the cycle. If not, if it's still positive, it's because Venus is still in Libra And starting in the new cycle, that's when we could see the challenges. New York Stock Exchange, the sun, moon, and the moon and Mercury are all in positive aspects to Venus. For New York Stock Exchange's chart, because the sun, this is a daytime chart for this, the sun is very important. So the planets that are very important is Venus, the moon, and Mars. Sun and the moon are in positive aspects to Venus. So that could be an indicator of really having a more of a positive time than it's been having in the earlier part of this cycle. The North Node is squaring to the sun, though. The North Node is in Aquarius, it's 8th house. And with that, where the North Node is, Saturn is a part of this Aquarius, which is a mutable air sign, the moon and Saturn. That could be causing challenges. That could be overriding this positive aspects to the actual, that could be overriding the sun, the moon, positive aspects to Venus. It could. Either that, we could have a positive day on this eclipse, lunar eclipse. Yeah, the day of this eclipse for the New York Stock Exchange could be positive. I'm not saying it's going to have like a market bull run, but it could be positive, more positive than the market has been acting this for the first 2 weeks of this cycle. This North Node squaring the sun, it's going to be a challenge. Saturn is also squaring the ascendant, and that happens in the early part of September as well. So we could have the rest of this August month going out positive, especially with Jupiter trining to Saturn. That could be very positive, but Uranus is, Saturn is also retrograde. So that energy, as I've been speaking about, is positive, but it might not produce as much strong influence as it could be. And that goes with Bitcoin too. August the 28th through the 31st, I see this as very positive. I forgot. Mars is next to the ascendant. This is giving a boost to the New York Stock Exchange. So yes, I see this period, the 28th through the 31st, even September the 1st, to be positive, a lot more positive than it has been. It could help it to rise up a bit more than where it's been. I'm not saying it could go to its all-time high. That is a possibility, but I feel that that's not the case. There's a limit on the price because of Saturn squaring the ascendant and North Node squaring the sun. So positiveness, 28th through the 31st, even though I know there's a weekend in between there at some point. The first and the second could be positive due to Mars next to the ascendant. The third, the fourth, the fifth, that's when I see the challenges appearing because of the Saturn squaring to the natal ascendant. September the 7th through 7th, 8th, 9th to the end of the cycle could be very positive with Jupiter next to natal Uranus. Ending out this cycle in extreme positive, it will likely help the price to come out of this slump that it's in. There will be a limitation, though, with Saturn squaring to this natal ascendant, though. So, again, I'm not saying the prices are going to go to an all-time high, but this will be very positive week, the 7th through the end of the cycle, which I believe is September the 9th. The very beginning of the morning on the 9th, it could be challenged because Mars is squaring to the natal moon. But for the rest of that day, I do see it as positive because Mars is also sextile to natal Mars. So, recap. The eclipse, I see it as very positive through the 28th through the 28th is a Friday, through the 1st and the 2nd. The 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th could be more challenged. And then the 7th, even the end of the day on the 6th could start to turn it around and be positive. The 7th, the 8th, the 9th, I do see that as positive to end the cycle in more of a positive momentum. Limiting the growth, though, because of Saturn squaring to this ascendant. And if the week of the 7th continues in the negative decline, it's because of Saturn squaring that natal ascendant, overriding other transits within the market. But again, anything can happen, will happen. It's eclipse season. Outside events will likely influence the markets. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It's just a little bit of an update because a lot has happened and changed since the solar eclipse. And we'll have to come back and take a look at the next cycle as it comes up. I believe that's September the 10th. If you are interested in an astrology reading, my links are in the description below. Have a safe and wonderful eclipse, lunar eclipse. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share.